Well, hi, hello there. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tabitha Gabrielle, and today I'm going to be doing recent reads number 3. These are going to be books that I've read between like mid-May till now. I had to run off camera for a second and get my my mug of cat Sprite. You know, that doesn't sound very appetizing when I say it out loud. It's my cat mug with Sprite in it. Iced Sprite, because it's so hot outside. As I sat down to film this video, I thought of a Celestria video that I watched earlier where she goes through her mug collection, which is a pretty insane collection, if I do say so myself. As someone without a mug collection, I was pretty impressed. Just let me show off my cat mug. It says meow. I love cats, if you don't know. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to get into this video. So the very first book that I'm going to be talking about today is A Crane Among Wolves by Jane Her. I listened to this on Audible, and I have to say I think the audiobook was really, really good. It was very well narrated, and I really like listening to audiobooks for books that take place in different countries, especially with characters that have names I can't pronounce very well as an American. It really helps to hear their names over and over again on an audiobook so that I can pronounce them properly myself. That means a lot to me. I'm going to go ahead and read the Goodreads description for A Crane Among Wolves. Hope is dangerous. Love is deadly. 1506. The people suffer under the cruel reign of the tyrant king Yonsan. I think that's how you say it. Powerless to stop him from commandeering their land for his recreational use, banning and burning books, and kidnapping and horrifically abusing women and girls for his personal playthings. 17-year-old Isul has lived a sheltered, privileged life despite the kingdom's turmoil. When her older sister Suyun becomes the king's latest prey, Isul leaves the relative safety of her village, traveling through forbidden territory to reach the capital in hopes of sealing her sister back. But she soon discovers the king's power is absolute, and to challenge his rule is to court certain death. Prince Daehyun, I think that's how you say it again, my pronunciation is probably trash, but whatever. Prince Daehyun has lived his whole life in the terrifying shadow of his despicable half-brother, the king. Forced to watch King Yonsan flaunt executions and rampant abuse of the common folk, Daehyun aches to find a way to dethrone his half-brother once and for all. When staging a coup, failure is fatal, and he'll need help to pull it off, but there's no way to know who he can trust. When Isul and Daehyun's fates collide, their contempt for each other is transcended only by their mutual hate for the king. Armed with Isul's family connections and Daehyun's royal access, they reluctantly join forces to launch into the riskiest gamble the kingdom has ever seen. Save her sister, free the people, destroy a tyrant. That is an intriguing description, is it not? I was really drawn to the sister aspect of this book because I really love strong sibling bonds. And she doesn't really have a strong connection to her sister at first, but she's got this resiliency and determination to get her back and to make the king pay for all of the bad things that he's done. And I really loved that about her. I will say there was... my close book friends know. I appreciate a good death. I appreciate a good death of a beloved character, okay? If there's a good character that I like and they're killed off for a good reason, most of the time I want them to stay dead because I hate that trope of that resurrection trope or whatever it's called, where they all of a sudden come back to life. They're like, oh wait, never mind. I fell off a cliff, now it's dead. 6 months later, here I am.
No.
But I will say... there was a scene at the end of this book where I was like, are you serious? I was distraught. I didn't stay that way, but it got me there, if that makes sense. Anyway, moving on. The next book that I'm going to talk about today is A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I rated this book 3 stars because it was so long. I also had a few issues with some of the content pieces in this book, towards the end, they were full on drawing pentagrams on the ground and summoning things. So I was like, this is really not for me. Why are we summoning demons? What? With a name like Sorcery of Thorns, though, I feel like that is a little bit predictable. I shouldn't be too shocked by that. It's an interesting idea, okay? Because it takes place in this library where the books are alive and they're they're grimoires, so they're magic books. And that concept fascinated me. Let me read the description for you. All sorcerers are evil. Elizabeth has known that as long as she has known anything. Raised as a foundling in one of Ostermere's great libraries, Elizabeth has grown up among the tools of sorcery, magical grimoires that whisper on the shelves and rattle beneath iron chains. If provoked, they transform into grotesque monsters of ink and leather. She hopes to become a warden, charged with protecting the kingdom from their power. Then, an act of sabotage releases the library's most dangerous grimoire. Elizabeth's desperate intervention implicates her in the crime, and she is torn from her home to face justice in the capital. With no one to turn to but her sworn enemy, the sorcerer Nathaniel Thorn, and his mysterious demonic servant, Red Flag, she finds herself entangled in a centuries-old conspiracy. Not only could the great libraries go up in flames, but the world along with them. No pressure. As her alliance with Nathaniel grows, Elizabeth starts to question everything she's been taught, about sorcerers, about the libraries she loves, even about herself. Wow. For Elizabeth has a power that she has never guessed, and a future she never could have imagined. I don't feel like talking about this book a lot, if I'm being honest. It was a 3-star book, which is a very low rating for me. I didn't really like a book if I rated it 3 stars. There's a lot of magic. Like, let's not be drawing pentagrams on the floor and, like, spreading rice around or whatever the little concoction was that they were spreading around. I was like, that's probably not a good idea, Elizabeth, my girl. I will say this setting was kind of interesting. I don't know, it's very interesting. I picture, like, early 19th century England, like cobblestone streets, little gas street lamps, carriages, maybe like a car if someone's super rich, maybe like a super early on version of a car. How do I explain this book? It's like early 1900s, that setting, but then also you throw in an anime type of vibe. Like, my boyfriend made me watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventures with him one time, and I was like, this is the wackiest garbage I've ever seen in my life. Like, the first episode had me, and then zombies started coming up out of the ground, and, like, just all this random curse crap started going on, and I was like, what is this? What am I watching? It was very anime-esque, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, read it and you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, moving on. I feel like my light is waning, so if it's getting darker, I'm sorry. It's my fault for procrastinating all day, and now here we are. So I'm just gonna make this work. The third book that I read is Assassin of Fire and Sacrifice by Mary Mecham. And I'd never read anything by Mary Mecham up until this point, but this was a buddy read with Lindsay, Christy, Celestria, and I had very low expectations going into this, but I went into it with an open mind, and I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, I was really surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because the first chapter, I was like, I really don't know if I'm feeling this. But then, after a few other chapters, I was like, you know what? This is pretty good. And for a 290-something page fantasy book, I would say it was pretty daggum good. So I rated it 5 stars. To read you the little description, it says, to assassinate her target, she must marry her enemy.
She's an assassin. Ooh la la, wow, so amazing.
Azora has dedicated her life to exacting revenge on the Phoenix shifters who murdered her parents. When Prince Tarquin of Pyrrhon demands a bride as part of a peace treaty, the elite strike squad of assassins Azora belongs to agree. She's the perfect candidate to eliminate the monstrous shifter. The traces of Pyrenees blood, I don't know if it's Pyrenees or Pyrenees, the traces of Pyrenees blood flowing through her veins grant her immunity to fire and will allow her to slay Tarquin, for a phoenix can only be destroyed by one descended from Pyrrhon. The safety of all Termarth, which is a hideous name, I don't like the name Termarth. The safety of all of Termarth is dependent on Azora to maintain her cover. Her true identity must never be discovered. With the tantalizing offer of peace on the altar, Azora weds Tarquin, knowing that as soon as the peace treaty is broken, either bride or groom will be the first casualty. But just as Azora begins to uncover the man behind the monster, skirmishes erupt throughout the land. When the time finally arrives to eliminate the threat to Termarth, Azora's loyalties are torn. She intended to gamble her life away, not her heart. I love that last sentence. She intended to gamble her life away, not her heart. Aw, darn. I really loved this book. It's enemies to lovers. Tarquin, some of the other girls in the group chat had feelings about the name Tarquin. They didn't like it. Me personally, I like it. Tarquin. It sounds kind of nice, does it not? But anyway, yeah, moving on. I rated it 5 stars. It was great. Also, they have the most beautiful special edition that I have not personally purchased, but my friend Lindsay purchased it. And y'all, just look at it. Just look at it. I need it. There goes a few more dollars out of my bank account. The next book that I'm going to be talking about today, I'm very excited about because it was one of my favorites. It's probably going to be one of my favorites of the year. and that was Date with Danger by Jenessa Fayeth. This is another author that I was not quite sure about because I'd never read anything from her before. Y'all, this is a rom-com murder mystery. You can't get much better than that. Like, that is the ultimate combo right there. Rom-com murder mystery? Yes, sign me up. I will say I love this book. I love the main character. She's very, like, quirky and kind of ditzy and dumb at times, but it works. Usually I don't like it when female characters are like that, but for some reason, in this story, in this setting, this rom-com murder mystery setting, it works, and she works, and I really loved her. She was delightful. This book had me laughing out loud, shamelessly, in public. Like at the tire shop, okay? While my tires were getting fixed on my car, and I was sitting in the lobby for a couple of hours, literally laughing out loud, having people stare at me. Yeah, that's how good this book was, okay? Our main characters are Amelia and Caleb is like the grumpy to all of Amelia's ditzy sunshine. He was great too. He is an ex-military FBI agent. So very serious, very like, not duck lips, very serious. That's my serious face. Let me read the description for you. I, Amelia Quinn, am dating again. I must be out of practice though because I sat down at the wrong man's table and kissed him, and now I'm wrapped up in the middle of an FBI case. Dream come true. Except the super sexy agent doesn't want my help solving this case. And then you have Caleb's perspective too. I, Caleb Harris, am a stupid man. Nothing says rookie agent like kissing a civilian, just to get rid of her. But somehow that didn't even work because she keeps showing up wherever our suspect is. And now I'm not even so sure she's innocent in all this, especially when someone ends up dead. Date with Danger is a closed-door, light-hearted, romantic comedy with mystery and suspense. It is closed door in all areas regarding the romance. Some people that I know don't like when they notice each other too much. There is a lot of noticing. They notice each other a lot in this, if you know what I mean. They, are constantly making internal comments to themselves like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's so hot. Oh my gosh, look at his arms. He's always like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I love her so much. Look at her beautiful shape. She looks like an hourglass. That kind of silly stuff. But it doesn't bother me. If it does bother you though, do be aware of it. Easiest 5 stars I've given a book in a while, honestly. The next book that I'm going to talk about on this list is Morrighan by Mary E. Pearson. This is a book that I've been putting off for a while because it is the very last piece of the Remnant Chronicles universe, and I didn't want my time in that universe to end. It's a very short little book. It's a novella. It's got little drawings in it. The font is large. It's just a fun little revisit to the world. It's just the backstory on the kingdom and how the kingdom was founded, which is very relevant to the plot line of the Remnant Chronicles. Like, the name of the main place in the Remnant Chronicles is Morrighan. And you're kind of like, you're learning Morgan's story through Morrighan. I rated it 4 stars. It really wasn't anything crazy or spectacular. It was a pretty basic story, but I really enjoyed it. If you didn't particularly enjoy the Remnant Chronicles, I can't say that you would really love this, but it was the closure I needed. Okay? The description for this is also very short and sweet. Before borders were drawn, before treaties were signed, before wars were raged anew, before the great kingdoms of the remnant were even born, and before the world of old was a hazy slate of memory told in story and legend, a girl and her family fought to survive. And that girl's name was Morrighan. In this prequel novella to the Remnant Chronicles, a girl and boy from enemy camps meet and fall in love and set history in motion. It was cute. Again, don't read it if you haven't read the Remnant Chronicles, though, because I feel like it's not going to be meaningful at all to you, because it is kind of bland. But I loved it. I'm here for it, okay? Hi, hello there. This is Editing Tabitha. That's why I'm in a different outfit. I forgot to talk about one of the books yesterday, so that's what I'm going to be doing right now real quick. I'm also going to take my thumbnail photo, so if you're confused when you click on this video and I look like this, but then I look like I did in the beginning of the video, now you know why. I'm sorry. I'm not perfect. I wish I was. The book that I forgot to talk about was actually a really good book, so that's why I'm surprised that I forgot to talk about it. It was The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery. I rated it 4 stars, and it was recommended by Anne over at In Search of Wonder. I watched her video recapping her experience reading it, and she really liked it. And I loved Anne of Green Gables growing up. It was one of my favorite book series. My thoughts on this book are, I really liked it. It had a really good character development. The main character is this very sweet, very manipulated girl. She's very manipulated by her family, and they have her thinking that all her life should consist of is waiting for a husband, cooking, cleaning, all of that, which she's 29, and so now they're all like,
oh, you're never gonna get married, like, you should basically just give up and just become an old maid.
Or marry an old man. And she's like, I don't want to do that. She ends up getting news that she has an illness and she only has a year to live. And she's like, I'm 29. I haven't lived at all. And so she basically goes through this character development over the course of a year. And then a surprise happens that I'm not going to tell you about because it's a spoiler. So anyway, I'm going to read the little description. Will Valancy Sterling ever escape her strict family and find true love? Valancy Sterling is 29, unmarried, and has never been in love. Living with her overbearing mother and meddlesome aunt, she finds her only consolation in the forbidden books of John Foster and her daydreams of the Blue Castle, a place where all of her dreams come true and she can be who she truly wants to be. After getting shocking news from the doctor, she rebels against her family and discovers a surprising new world, full of love and adventures far beyond her most secret dreams. It was very idealistic. It was very cute. It was very wholesome. Everything worked out in the end. And it was just one of those really good, feel-good stories. I loved her character development, and I loved her love interest. Her love interest they were really cute together, I think. So anyway, I was just popping on here real quick to tell you about that book. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Anne, for reading it and recommending it. Let's move on. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Catch a Wave by Savannah Scott. I have a lot of feelings about this book, and most of them are negative. It's a second chance, brother's best friend type of story. I think I might have discovered through this book that I really hate second chance romance. Like, I might just really hate that trope. Maybe people who love that trope would love this book, but I thought it was trash. That's really harsh, actually. I didn't think it was trash. Let me talk about what I did like first, before I absolutely wreck it. I liked the setting. It takes place in Hawaii and California, like beach towns, very summery. It makes me low-key want to become a surfer, but I know I'm not that cool, so I'm not athletic either, so that's just not on the radar for my future. But in my dreams, I might be doing some surfing now. It kind of romanticizes that athlete surfer lifestyle, and it was cute in that aspect. Every other aspect, though, I wasn't a fan. So the main characters are, I'm going to call her Kalani because I cannot pronounce the actual pronunciation of her name. It says it multiple times in the book and I can't get it. It doesn't sound right rolling off my tongue, so I'm calling her Kalani. I know I said earlier in this video that names mean a lot to me and pronunciations mean a lot to me, but because I didn't like this book, I don't care as much. So I'm sorry. So you have Kalani and you have Bodhi. Because of course, the surfer guy with the man bun is named Bodhi. Right? I'm going to read you the description and then I'll unpack. Did you ever see a guy and just know you had to meet him? That was me and Bodhi Merrick. I couldn't take my eyes off him as he donned his wetsuit in the big famous surf spot, Mavericks. I'll never forget that day, or the time our paths crossed after that. Big waves surfing in a small world, and as it happens, Bodhi felt the same tug, this irresistible attraction that drew us together. We became known as surfing's it couple. Our love was more famous than either of us, until life threw us for a loop and tore what we had apart. Now, 2 years after our breakup, I find myself standing on my brother's front porch, ready to beg my only sibling for a place to crash. Only, the man who opens the door isn't my brother. It's my brother's best friend, also known as my ex-boyfriend, Bodhi Merrick. And now we're living in the same house on Marbella Island. Bodhi seems to have moved on. My heart will always be his. How am I supposed to heal from the biggest tragedy of my life when he's walking around in board shorts with his wavy hair falling across his forehead and calling me the nickname he gave me 2 years ago? Maybe I don't want to get over him. The question, after all we've been through, is can we give our relationship a second chance? Catch a Wave is a closed-door rom-com that will grip your heart and take you for a ride, ending in a sweet happily ever after. Catch a Wave is the third book in our Love Trippin' series, but it can be read as a standalone or read without reading the other books in the series. You know, there was all this build-up, okay? I was expecting some crazy thing to have happened that caused them to break up. This was my main issue with the book, okay? Because every time you're in her POV, she's talking about Bodhi. She's like, oh, he's doing this now, but what he used to be was just so awful. So I was expecting something tragic or something unforgivable, you know? The reason they broke up was so dumb. Those are my feelings. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm getting upset about it, because there was all this buildup for nothing. I was like, are you serious? I was like, that is why you broke up? And that's how you were talking? I don't want to hear another thing you have to say, girlie. You're so dumb. And he's so dumb. Like, just go be surfer bros, girlies. I just don't come anywhere near me. Don't want people like you in my life or in my head living rent-free, okay? And this story is living rent-free in my head for a bad reason. I don't like it. The last book on this list today, thank goodness it's the last book, because the light is not lighting anymore. The last book on this list is I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. This book was very, very fun. It was a very, very fun audiobook. The narrator was fantastic. He understood the assignment, and I loved him for that. The beginning of the story was very, very fun. I liked the world building aspect of it. I think that it was a very intriguing and unique world. There's different types of dragons, and most of them are like little pestilence sized dragons, like rats, right? They're kind of treated like rats, except they can poison you, and they can still hurt you, but they're the size of a small dog. And our main character, who is a dragon exterminator by trade, he has pet dragons, which is kind of against the rules. You're not supposed to be like that. And so our main character, Robert, has always kind of been made to feel less than, because he does keep dragons and he doesn't ruthlessly kill all of them. And the ones that he does kill, he tries to do it humanely. When I was telling my sister about this book, I said it kind of feels like a Renaissance fair. And I don't know how to explain that other than it feels like a Renaissance fair. It feels like a story that you are listening to someone else act out, which is basically every story, but it felt like it was being performed on a stage or something. And it was very entertaining. Like, the characters were very theatrical and kind of over the top sometimes. So maybe that's why it kind of gave Ren Fair vibes. I'm going to go ahead and read you the description. A cast of characters trapped within their roles of dragon hunter, princess, and more must come together to take their fates into their own hands. Dragons are common in the backwater kingdom of Bella Montagna, coming in sizes ranging from mouse-like vermin all the way up to castle-smashing monsters. Gaius Aurelius Constantine Heliogabalus Thrax, who would much rather people just call him Robert, has recently inherited his deceased dad's job as a dragon catcher/exterminator, a career he detests with all of his heart because he likes dragons, feeling a kinship with them, but mostly because his dream has always been the impossible one of transcending his humble origin to someday become a prince's valet. Needless to say, fate has something rather different in mind.
Tiffany, I'm filming! And I've got like 2 minutes of light left. Get out! I made cookies.
As I was saying, so as you can tell just based on the write-up, it's got a dramatic flair to it. It's got this comedic writing style and this comedic essence that really shines through in the story. I'll say at about the 2/3 mark, it lost me in places because it was moving a little fast and I feel like it left my brain behind. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. It's clean. There's no sexual content. There's like mentions of drinking and, you know, basic fantasy book stuff. There's a wizard who's a bad guy. It's just a very fun book and I would recommend it. Those are all of the books that I'm here to talk to you about today. And I'm glad I made it through with just enough waning light left to hopefully be able to see me. Comment down below what you're reading right now. That would be really fun, I feel like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever other time of day it is for you. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The bubbles and Sprite are lethal. Anyway, on that note,